We are living in strange and uncertain times. The world feels tense, divided, and constantly on edge. Every day brings new conflicts, new fears, new crises, and more noise than ever before. People feel overwhelmed, distracted, and restless, even when they cannot explain why. There is a sense that something important is being lost, that meaning is fading, and that we are moving faster and faster without knowing where we are going. In moments like this, it is natural to wonder whether the world has faced times like these before, and whether any guidance was ever given for when humanity begins to lose its way. Over 100 years ago, in a small village in Portugal, a message was given that speaks directly to times like ours. In 1917, in a small village in Portugal, 3 children were given a message that was meant to reach far beyond their own lives. They were not educated, powerful, or important by the world's standards. They were shepherd children who spent their days watching sheep and walking through fields. Yet the message they carried spoke about the future of the world, the suffering people would face, and the direction society would take over time. According to their account, the Virgin Mary appeared to them and returned month after month, choosing to speak not to leaders or scholars, but to children who had no status, no influence, and no reason to invent such a story. She spoke to them about prayer, about turning back to God, and about what would happen to the world if people continued to drift away from Him. She spoke about things no child and no shepherd could have learned from life itself. She spoke about wars, people losing their way, and the condition of the world as a whole. These were not ideas that came from their surroundings or their experience. They carried words that belonged to history, not to childhood. As the month passed, more and more people began to follow the children to the place of the apparitions. What began as 3 voices slowly became thousands of witnesses. On October 13th, 1917, around 70,000 people gathered in the rain, waiting to see if anything would truly happen. According to reports from believers and non-believers alike, the rain stopped, the clouds parted, and the sun appeared to move, spin, and change colors in the sky, before seeming to fall toward the earth. People said their soaked clothes dried instantly. Many claimed to see the same event at the same time. The moment became known as the miracle of the sun, and it remains one of the most widely witnessed religious events in modern history. Whether one approaches it through faith or through history, the story of Fatima stands as something unusual, unexpected, and difficult to dismiss. A message carried by children, confirmed by a crowd, and remembered for over a century. The world has always known hardship, conflict, and pain, but there are moments when something deeper begins to change. There are times when people stop knowing what truly matters, when confusion replaces good judgment, and when power becomes more important than doing what is right. In those moments, the problem goes beyond politics or society. It becomes about the heart. It becomes about people losing their sense of purpose and forgetting God. Today, we live in a time where people have a lot of influence and a lot of freedom, but very little sense of what they are actually meant to do with it. A nation that shapes much of the world's culture now struggles to remember what it once believed in. It talks constantly about rights, identity, and progress, yet rarely talks about truth, responsibility, or God. Its voice reaches everywhere, through screens, media, and daily life, but inside, something feels empty. When people forget how to pray, they slowly forget how to listen. When they forget how to listen, everything becomes louder but less meaningful. Opinions replace wisdom. Noise replaces peace. Families drift apart. Communities become divided. People search for belonging in trends, movements, and labels, yet still feel empty inside. The message of Fatima spoke directly to this kind of world. It warned that when people turn away from God, suffering follows. It warned that wars would grow from pride and confusion, that people would become blind to their own mistakes, and that societies would try to run everything without remembering their limits. But the message did not end in fear. It ended with a solution. Again and again, the answer was the same. Pray, turn back, pick up the Rosary. The Rosary looks simple in a world obsessed with speed and power. It is just beads held in human hands. It is the same prayers repeated over and over. It feels slow compared to modern life, yet that slowness is exactly what makes it powerful. The Rosary brings the mind back to God in a world that constantly pulls attention away. It creates stillness, where everything else creates chaos. When life feels overwhelming, the Rosary becomes a way to steady the heart. It teaches patience when everything feels rushed. It teaches humility when everything encourages pride. It teaches trust when everything feels uncertain. It does not give control over the world. It gives connection to the God who holds it. The warning of Fatima was never about one century, one country, or one specific event. It speaks to every society that reaches a point where it no longer knows what it is living for. It speaks to cultures that gain knowledge but lose meaning, that gain power but lose direction, that gain freedom but forget responsibility. The real danger of our time is not simply that the world feels unstable. It is that the world has forgotten how to pray. It has forgotten how to be quiet. It has forgotten how to turn toward God. The Rosary is still here. It sits quietly in churches, in drawers, in pockets, in homes. It waits for hands willing to hold it again. It waits for minds willing to slow down. It waits for hearts willing to return. The message of Fatima was not meant to scare people. It was meant to wake them up. It was meant to remind humanity that history begins inside each person, that collapse starts within before it appears outside, and that healing always begins with prayer. The time to listen was never only in the past. The time to listen is right now, when the world seems to be crumbling before our very eyes. We must find our way back to God. We must pray the Rosary. If this message resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe so that more people can come across reflections like this. In a world that feels loud and chaotic, even small moments of stillness and meaning can make a difference. Thank you for listening, and may you find peace in the quiet moments.